Hello, and welcome to another Tuesday Industry Live. I'm ThatKimberly, and I normally have another co-host up here with me, either Deb or Carla, but they're busy. They're traveling this week. Everybody's busy, but they're on the road. So it's just me and my special guest today here sharing all things multifamily, as well as bringing as much value to the audience as humanly possible. So, as I mentioned, my guest today will be Miss Joanie Stallo. I practiced that right before I came live. I got here. Woo! And we're going to be talking about customer service. But before I do that and we jump into this conversation, I want to make sure everybody knows where we're going live from. We are live on Deb's Facebook page, on actually Joanie's as well, Lifestyle Experts, ThatKimberly, which is my business page, and my personal LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. So wherever you're watching us from, please, if you got a question, leave it in the comments. If something resonates with you, please let us know. Wherever it is, we absolutely want to hear from you. We want your feedback, so please let us know. And if you want to be a guest on Industry Live, I got to throw this in because I might forget at the end, to email us at beonindustrylive@gmail.com. And if you watch it on the replay, put hashtag and replay. Oh, that's a ticking one. Ooh, I haven't used that one in a long time. You can put hashtag replay and where you watched us from, or if you want to watch any other past episodes, just go to the Googler and type in hashtag ThatKimberly, hashtag it's Deb or Deb DeRuin or Carla de Jesus or Industry Live, and all the other videos will pop up. There might have to be a little mini session on that one of these days. But without further ado, I'm going to bring my guest on and friend, Miss Joanie.
Hi.
Hi, Joanie.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely.
So tell the audience, I always like to let people know that I'm going to mess up your name at some point. Usually your last name is speaking to you, Joanie, but I don't like to mess up anybody's bios, so I let people do their own bio or introduction. So
okay. So I'm Joanie. I am a realtor, and I've worked in the multifamily industry since I was 17. And I grew up with a single mom and went to 5 high schools, so always navigated the terrain of moving around a bit. So I think it's quite natural I ended up in this role. Yeah. But I love meeting new people and helping them with, I feel like, one of their most important decisions, which is figuring out where they're going to live.
Yeah. So. And you do a great job, because not only are you my personal friend, but when we met, however many years ago, I don't know, I don't even remember. It's probably been at least 15, because you were on the TV show. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So, you also helped me. You've helped me in so many different times when relocating. So I have to, and we'll have a whole other episode on that topic in general. But
yeah,
we ponder a lot of things together, and one of
where'd you go?
We're back. We ponder customer service all the time, and I have to say that you do an amazing job of giving customer service. Like, you always go above and beyond, and yeah, so that you came on and talked to me about customer service. So what do you think? Why do you think customer service is so important in today's age? On top, like, okay, let me slow down. I'm a double agent, and that means I live in apartment communities. I've lived in apartment communities since I left El Paso, Texas at 18, and now found myself when I started, back in the industry 20 years ago, being involved in the industry and working alongside all these people. So I'm a self-proclaimed double agent, and it's hard sometimes for customer service for me to give feedback on good or bad customer service.
Right.
How do you handle that side of being also a double agent?
It's a delicate process, that's for sure. I
Yes.
think the biggest thing is trying to figure out if they want feedback, if they're open to
Hmm.
it, obviously. If your opinion is, welcomed or received. But I do think that it's very important. I think that's the question you started to ask. Why do
Yeah.
you think it's important? I think it's very important because it builds trust. And
Yeah.
when you have trust, it's easier to build relationships. And then when you have that relationship, being in that double agent role is way more fluid. And I also
Yeah.
think that it's more rewarding. Um, the last
It
place that I actually lived, I was in that environment. And it was fun because they had a new regional manager that came back to oversee the property. And she's somebody that I worked with at my very first location. So,
well, did you ever what was your most knowing that that's great. What was your most like difficult conversation you ever had to have with her that you can openly talk about, obviously?
luckily, we didn't have to have any difficult
Oh,
conversations. But what was great was she did let me know that she was open to it and just said, is there anything that you can give me feedback about living at this property that you think would be important to your clients? Because I had a ton of clients that lived there. I would
yeah.
always kind of start my tours there and then end up there. And it was a gorgeous community in Turtle Creek. So it sold itself
Yeah.
well. Um,
Yeah.
but it
But
was
at the
like
same
I said,
time, if she hadn't been open to it, that would have been harder, right? Like
oh,
like
for
how
sure.
would you? Yeah. What would you have
For
done?
sure.
What do you think that you would have done if she had not been open to giving feedback on their customer service?
Sometimes people aren't open to receiving feedback.
Hmm.
For a number of reasons, they might not be aware,
Yeah.
or the property might be in transition, or whatever the story is. One thing that I always try to do that I think helps a lot is I communicate expectations from my client's perspective, but I also educate them on the industry. A big thing that I
There you
really
go.
try and do is always educating them on why things are the way that they are. So instead of them thinking that they have Nazi towing companies coming into the garage at night and seeking out different cars to tow,
Yes.
they understand
In
um,
advance. Hmm.
this particular neighborhood has a shortage of land. Let's start there. And as
Yeah.
such, each building has, this environment for that situation, just so that they kind of understand the bigger picture. It's not
Yeah.
these people at the front desk trying to be bad guys. And I try and use
Yeah.
humor to explain that. And then it,
Yeah.
it
And you
typically
do a great
helps.
job. You're educating them. You're educating them in advance.
Yeah. I think that helps.
That's yeah, 100%. What would you say is like, so let's move to the original thought of before I got into my double agent thing. Now more than ever, why do you think customer service is so important?
Well, there's a number of things that I could say to answer that. But I think our whole landscape has shifted post
Hmm.
pandemic about how we communicate, what our needs are. Inflation has made it difficult for some folks to just do the very basic things.
Yeah,
Um, like,
because they're
you know,
stretched thin. They're
right.
stretched thin. They're overwhelmed. Like I just want to like reiterate that, right? Like it is. Everybody's got something going on that's
And oftentimes,
out of the
two
different.
somethings. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Sometimes we have two or three jobs, or we have a person that we're taking care of behind the scenes, and a lot of times
Hmm.
people don't know that unless
Yeah.
they ask, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, and since I'm one of those people that is a family caregiver at the same time of, continuing my career, I check myself and very aware because for those that I don't want to say that to, right? I just always check myself and make sure that I recognize like, am I being short and not giving this person 100% of, customer service or whatever it is because it's really about the situation that's going on, or it's
yeah,
because something else that has nothing to do with them in this other side of my world, right?
That's a great point. They talked
Mm-hmm.
about that in a workshop I did recently, and they talked about how oftentimes when you get someone who's angry, that
Uh-huh.
you're often just the person on the receiving end,
Mm-hmm.
and to try and be present and remember that, not take
Yeah.
things personally.
Yeah.
I will say
Yeah.
that's a tough one for me. I tend to
Well,
personalize a little bit more than I should, but I also personalize when it comes to my clients. I'm very
yeah.
specific about helping them with their needs. So I think that it can go both ways, but I do need to remember it's not about me,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
So
that's a good point in your workshop, them saying not to take it personal, because then that takes the energy away from you
right.
to not then apply back onto, for your clients. Like I had to remove myself when getting feedback from clients now, where it's just me and not a team of people, right? When I had a team of people, anybody who knew me and really knew me would know that I wanted to know bad customer service, bad project, bad job, whatever, so I could make it right. So I had the opportunity to make it right.
So you can fix it. Yeah.
Right.
It's different when it's just you though. It's like,
Yeah.
ooh, it
Yeah.
stings a little bit
Yeah.
more.
It does 100%. But then I check myself every time, and but I took your advice too in setting up expectations. You were one of the first people from working with you and also becoming your friend that it was, what are these expectations? I've always had deadline expectations as the norm, but it was, what are the expectations when I'm doing this project for you? Because it's
That's a
kind of like
great,
what you do.
yeah, I mean, it's a great place to start in every situation. And sometimes in my role, people don't know what they want. So it's a discovery process. You
Yeah.
have to ask some
Yeah.
questions. I mean, we've even had
Yeah.
that situation before, and you have to get real
Mm-hmm.
creative in the questions you ask, like what is, your end game, or how do you want to feel? Or a lot of
Yeah.
times I ask people, tell me about the situation you're in now and what's not working for you, and then go
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah. Customer service is huge, for on so many different levels, and dialing that in, having customer service support, even if it's, you know, if it's a bot, hopefully you train that bot well. If it's a person, like I just got some amazing customer service for technology. Like I deleted a link I wasn't supposed to delete, and it was already printed on something. Like it was just chaos, right? I don't even want to go back into it. But their customer service virtually online on it. They brought it back to life. I mean, it's a link. It didn't like go into vapor air. I didn't burn it. Like it's there somewhere on their
Right.
servers. So like I cannot tell you. But at the same time, when you're just one person, it's that picking up of the phone and asking the question or letting them tell you, and also setting the expectations so that you're not working after like 6 o'clock at night, but being polite about, hey, I receive this, I'm going to get to you in the morning, or giving them an expectation, so that that's still part of customer service, is communicating that back to them, right?
Absolutely. That, to me, that ties into the whole expectation process. And
Mm-hmm.
it's, in a way, storytelling. You're telling
Yeah.
people the story of your lives. And
Mm-hmm.
I tend to give probably too many details,
Mm-hmm.
but I've had people that can't talk during the day, specifically about their own personal housing needs. So they ask for calls after
Yeah.
hours. And I remember recently I had to tell a client who was an HR director that I could only speak to him until 7 p.m. because I was taking care of my 97-year-old grandmother. And that
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
truth. I wasn't
Yeah.
just saying that. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
but
it was
it's, and being transparent, especially when you're a realtor, and well, it doesn't matter really, no matter what. Like I'll say in the banking business, right? Like if you don't tell me when you're going to call me back or why you're not responding to me, then you're just kind of sitting there in the, automatically going, about to probably go negative, right? Because that's just how our minds. There was some stat that I don't even have, because this is very much just very organic for us, but it
right.
talks about neuroscience and how our brains are wired to automatically go negative before positive, unless we set the intention, we have the context, or we know any of those three, like we have that knowledge, then to stay in a neutral place, to not go negative, right? Like if you
Right.
don't
Not
know.
go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'm gonna, like, thank you. Let me tell everybody, Andrea, thank you for joining us. Josie, thank you for. And we have a question. Valerie says, with the real estate market slowing down, do all do also work with apartment locating? What type of marketing? Oh, do you? Okay, sorry, Val. What type of marketing or is your favorite way to get new clients? Okay.
So I have done apartment locating my whole life, and that's how I started in the industry. And my favorite way to get new clients is just being genuine with people and having real conversations about what their lifestyle and their living environment is, because
Mm-hmm.
that's truly where the need comes from. And
Yeah.
I think just understanding where people are and what they want. And I've had these conversations with you
Yep.
about different neighborhoods that we've lived in and
Mm-hmm.
how pricing has gone up $400 to $500 per month, and how
Yeah.
just
And how they don't call you back. How when you are looking and the prices are going up, don't even get me started on customer service and people not calling me back when I'm looking.
yeah, I mean, the phone is sadly becoming antiquated, and I'm a phone girl. I still
Yeah,
think that it's really relevant to get on the phone and have a quick 10-minute conversation about what needs are, because things can
100%.
get lost in translation online and via
100%.
text.
Yeah.
So
On
I'm
email.
a big caller.
Oh yeah, you and I got very comfortable with that really quickly. Like, hey, like now I'm almost overly apologizing because I was always calling people and now I overly text and I have to check myself all the time and say, no, Kimberly, this is important. Pick up the phone and ask the question because you
Right.
don't want to lose context, right? You don't want to send them. I already speak fast. My mind thinks faster than I can text sometimes, and it
Right.
doesn't look good if I'm not focused.
Yeah,
So
I have a girlfriend that calls, and every time she does, she apologizes and says, "I'm a caller." And I always say, "I love that.
that's
I love
awesome.
that. I welcome
Yeah,
a phone call."
yeah. Well, and I would say word of mouth for you. I'm just gonna speak as an outsider looking in because anybody that asks people that call me because I'm in the apartment industry think that I know the like where to go and what to do when it comes to getting apartments, and I'm like, I know people that can help you with that, and immediately, I send them to you, right? Like,
Oh, thank you.
or like depending on the other question, like okay, if you don't feel like you don't have time for that, I'm going to send them to you, and then I'm going to say, but here are these other management companies you might think about. But I said, but she's going to narrow that down for you because they don't know, right? They've only lived in a home, and so I have to make sure that they understand, right? Because
Absolutely.
then that's less than I don't have to call you or text you again other than just say, hey, sending my friend this way, your way, right? But
Absolutely. I mean, that's
it,
a whole process, especially
yeah.
if they've never lived in an apartment home before. I feel like that's, first
Mhm.
time renter is a big sector. And I love working with those people because it
Yeah.
goes back to the education.
Yeah, 100%. Valerie, we agree with you with her statement saying customer service does seem to be at its lowest with people returning phone calls. Well, Valerie, unfortunately, in the last, I'd say, 5 years, like I don't want to name locations of where I lived, or because it'd be easily, but for me, if it hadn't been for you, I wouldn't have gotten anywhere because nobody would call me back, you
Yeah.
know? So it's super
Having
sad.
that relationship definitely helps.
Yeah, yeah. Or knowing exactly where you want to go. Like previous, I've used you ever since I've been in the DFW area. So it like preview to that, this past 5 years before that, I just knew where I wanted to go, and you would say, okay, here, this is where you're going, or here, here's two places, pick one of the two, right? Like you just knew because I knew absolutely the section, and then as life changed for me, I got more and more like, I'm not quite sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then me coordinating on the backside with people that might be there
Hmm.
that might be willing to share their information, such as their cell phone or text message or whatever. That way, you can kind of communicate that way. That definitely helps. But I
Yeah.
agree, everybody can be a little bit better about getting on the phone and
Yes.
maybe just creating some awareness about that. Even if you and I say all the time, hey, I've only got 5 minutes or I've only got
Yes.
10 minutes, but I need to talk through this with you really quick, or I need to
Yeah. Or
ask
I'm
this
driving
question.
and I don't want to kill myself.
Exactly.
Or
Which,
my technology's not working.
that's that is definitely something that I always have going on. It seems like I'm always in the car.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's tricky.
Yeah. Like you're like at the seminar that you had went to, we had talked about, accepting our issues. You want to relate, you want to be okay with not being okay, but being honest,
Mm-hmm.
without going, like if you don't know that person and you're trying to give them good customer service, don't scare them. Like, just FYI, folks, like I've probably not the best thing to do with people, but so maybe a little less, but just being honest is imperative, but you just don't have to go into the deep details of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Being honest about where you're at.
Yeah, for sure. And I would definitely like giving yourself grace first, right? As well as that other person. And then that way you're not like automatically, like for me, I don't go in guns a blazing when I check myself like that.
Absolutely. Coach Kyle said a great thing, and he said, if you can't give yourself enough grace, how can you be there for other people? And that really made me think a lot.
Yeah. 100%. That was,
we're often our own worst critics, right?
oh yeah. I had a very wise woman one day tell me, Kimberly, I don't need you to tell me anything. I already started beating myself up long before, we walked out of that room. So let's just pause and give it a minute and then we'll talk about it. I'm like, okay. And I had
Wow.
never heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
She nicely checked me because, I'm alpha, right? Like, so it takes another alpha to know how to check another alpha nicely. And she
Right.
absolutely did that. And after that, I was always like, okay, because I would think to myself, I'm beating myself up first, right? Like, so I had beaten myself up. Then I went to go and wanting to tell her about it, but I was probably coming across that I wanted to tell her what she did wrong, right? Because I was saying we, right? But I was really thinking me. And when she said it, I was like, shit, it was, yeah, me. But she was
My girlfriend and I have a joke when she starts talking about herself, we start singing me. Have you heard that song?
La, 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 la. No, but I'm going to be singing it from every time now, for sure. I mean, but it's things like that that make you go, okay, absolutely. And that's been, I mean, I remember where I was in Chicago and we were pitching to one of the largest management companies and nobody's there anymore. So that would know, that watches this, and Equity Residential in Chicago, like we got our butts handed to us.
Wow.
Technology, because we were not listening to the customer. We're not listening to the customer. So that's a whole other, but I digress.
It's a big lesson, isn't it? Not listening to your customer. I mean,
for sure.
I've been in this industry long enough. I can look back on early years and really think back, and it's like, was I really listening? And my goal is to really listen now and to really hear what people are saying. And sometimes that means listening beyond words, listening even beyond actions, listening with empathy.
100%. Because then you can give that customer service with empathy as well, but not cave in or be weak. Like, it's not because empathy doesn't mean you're weak, but just you are meeting them where they're at. You're trying to understand where they're coming from, right?
Right.
To get them what they need, to get them back to being in that happy state. Whether they're going to continue to use you or not, you don't know, but it doesn't matter, right? Like, great customer service is making it right and doing the best that you can absolutely do for that.
And sometimes it's having a needs assessment, but also being honest and just saying that may or may not exist. If it's out there, I'm your girl and I'll find it for you. But
if it doesn't, if you think it does, and
circle the wagons.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have to, like, it's not even about the agree to disagree. It's about, like, maybe I'm not the right person. Like I say in dating, maybe I'm not the right person for you. That's another conversation for another day. But
that's funny.
But yeah, no, like I have definitely have in being in business for 20 something years, gotten really clear on being okay to saying, Gary Vee says, not convincing somebody to say yes, right?
Right.
If they say no, that's one thing, but you're not going to go after them to convince them to say yes.
Absolutely. I feel like it's an organic energy exchange anyway. If it
Mm-hmm.
flows, it flows. And if you can honestly give people what they need, then there's not ever going to be that question. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of whether you work well together or not.
Yeah. And the word of mouth now more than ever, customer service, for you built, like, your business was built, definitely, I feel, and you correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you will, on word of mouth. But now more than ever, because of the World Wide Web and that
Right.
Googler, as some boomers say, there's things called reviews.
Oh, yeah.
And they're real things. And if
They
you
are.
ignore them, if you ignore giving customer service and doing the right thing, because it's always the right thing to do, then those reviews are going to come out and bite you. Plus, if you ignore that and don't respond, it's another topic for another day, but you still have to respond in a thought and kindful manner, even if they
Absolutely.
aren't being kind, right?
I think even if you have a complaint, you still have to address it
Yeah,
and acknowledge the way that the other person is feeling and the fact that they gave you a chance to address it. I think
yeah,
that's huge, right?
uh-huh,
Because if you're able to have that conversation, oftentimes you can work through things,
100%,
especially if
100%.
it's just a miscommunication or a misunderstanding.
Yeah, which a lot of things go, like, in business, is usually just miscommunication, and not
Absolutely.
clarifying things.
Right.
That's, there's so many different topics as we're talking right here. I was like, we could spin off and talk about that. We're trying to be mindful on time, right? So,
Week
but
one, expectations. Week
yeah,
two, how to show up. Week
it's
three,
a
how to really
hey,
listen.
it's a series on Joanie's business Facebook page, which I'm going to throw up here just in a second. I mean, like, meaning I'm going to put the liner there. So we're going to go and continue this series of things that she just named, because I think it's important, right?
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
it there, there's it could be an hour show, but nobody's got time for that.
Right?
So with that said, tell folks, I do want, there to be enough time for you to be able to tell folks, how they can connect with you, what you got going on, and all that great stuff.
So I just started my own company, Lifestyle Experts, as I am approaching my 20th year to be a realtor. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And the best way to reach me is honestly by phone, either phone call or text. But you can also reach out to me on social media, and my links are up here. And
Yeah.
thanks to
You
you,
can
I'm going to have some brand new content.
yeah. Well, you can tell them the phone number right now. That was the only thing. I'm so weird that I forget about a phone number, but, like, tell them your phone number, Joanie.
Phone number is 214-557-8743. Call
Okay.
or text.
And yeah, call or text, and we can even put it in the comments. I might be able to do that here in a second.
Sure.
But yeah, it's definitely something that, I'm excited for you. Why lifestyle experts? Why that name?
Because you're not just finding a place to live, you're really buying, or whether you're buying a home or you're renting an apartment, it's all about your lifestyle. And I've always gotten
Yeah.
to the very specific needs of what my clients and friends and customers wanted, and
Hmm.
spent a lot of time investing and finding that perfect fit for them. So I
Yeah.
felt like that name was really fitting.
Yeah. Well, I think it was awesome because you definitely go through a very quick but in-depth process, because you're mindful of people's time. But at this, you've been doing it 20 years, going on, like you said, 20, like that, specific things to ask about, more than just of course, your washer and dryer connection things, but like what's important to you, work wise, what's
What's
important to
most
you socially.
important to you?
Yeah, correct. Well,
How do you
most, yes.
navigate your commute every morning? What
Yeah,
kind of an animal do you have? And have you lived in a high rise before? What do you
yeah,
do if you move into a high rise and you've never had to put your dog on a leash? Like, some people
yeah,
have had that situation, especially
uh-huh,
with my relocation clients that move here. And Sometimes it's just like you said earlier, it's like what to expect about renting a place. What's the difference between, renting an apartment and a home? All those things are very, I think, specific to a person and what their needs are. So I try and focus on that the most.
Yeah. Well, I can attest to that you do. And so I'm very excited that you agreed to join me today.
Oh, me as
Otherwise,
well.
yes, and
It's a lot of fun.
You were always welcome back.
Thank you.
We have there's so many questions that I have for you. I'm going to throw it out there so it's on camera. Airbnb, what the difference between being a locator and, working with a realtor, and, things to think about when you are working with a locator. Because I feel like our industry doesn't understand, or a lot of people that I know that have never lived in apartments don't understand what a benefit a locator like you, specifically you, is does for your life.
Thank you.
So I'm going to throw that out
I'm
there.
excited to come back and talk about all those things.
Yes, there will be extra series on this channel over here, folks. As I'm saying this to everyone, I'm going to throw up our now that I know that this was the link earlier, I was telling you, Joanie, that I deleted by accident. Just FYI, I'm going to put it out there. And Metro Cool customer service got that thing back up and live, and I was having a panic attack because I had it on a shirt already, QR code printed. Anyways, Metro Cool is the bomb. So anyways, they gave me great customer service. So I'm not gonna, but you can go here. You can connect with us wherever you want to connect with us. You can also sign up for our newsletter. There's lots of different resources on that link, thanks to Metro Cool not being gone bye-bye into the vapors. They brought it back to life.
I love it.
Yeah. So until next week, I thank you guys so much for joining us, everybody. And we'll be back next Tuesday. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you. I'm going to end. I think we're off. Maybe it says not.